This is Work From Home, the show that helps you stay connected, productive and sane while working remotely. I'm Harry.
And I'm Alex.
And today we're talking about anxiety and the effect that this is having on productivity, mental health, all kinds of things. Super important topic. Definitely something that I've kind of experienced over the years in different ways, as an employee, as a business owner, as a remote worker, as a not remote worker. So I think this is really important and really interesting. Before we get to that though, and a reminder again that we have a survey that we would love you to fill out. We want to learn more about you, our listener, and how we can do better in the show that we're producing here at Work From Home. There will be a prize, a £50 draw, a randomly selected entry to this survey will be awarded a £50 voucher as a thank you for your efforts. And so please do go to wfhpodcast.com where you'll find a link to that survey, or just look in the show notes here in the app that you're using to listen to this podcast, where there'll be a link to that. Yeah, please do fill it out. Give us your email address to make sure we've got a way to contact you, and we will randomly select one of those entries to win the prize. It would really be appreciated. Thank you. So yes, anxiety is the focus today, and an article we've seen on the BBC is all about how anxiety affects your focus, Alex.
Yeah, this is really interesting because I don't know about you, but I have found intermittently over the past few months that sometimes I don't have that extra mental gear that I think I remember having earlier on in the year before lockdown and workloads and all that sort of stuff. And what this article said, which is really interesting to me, is that may be a side effect of this sort of anxiousness that's come along as a result of, being in a global pandemic and all that sort of rosy stuff. And specifically the effect it has on your memory, and specifically your working memory, which is that really short-term memory that you need to just do everyday tasks. Like, why did I go into this room? Or what do I need to do next? Or what task am I currently doing?
Yep. And this is one I can relate to for sure. Like, as a business owner, definitely life is not short of its stresses and anxieties. Also as a parent and during a pandemic, like there's a lot going on for many of us. And I think that people are getting much, much better about talking about mental health and anxiety and stuff. But I think sometimes there's still a certain level of kind of shame and British kind of stiff upper lip that has to go on in order to sort of manage this yourself, rather than seek help or kind of just acknowledge that it's a thing. And so, yeah, I can totally attest to all of that stuff. It definitely can have an impact on short-term memory. I've more times than I'd care to mention, I've walked into a room and gone, why the hell did I just walk into this room? What am I doing here? And one of the ways that it plays out for me very often is that I will just run through my to-do list like a million times. I'm like, okay, what do I need to do today? What do I need to do today? And I'll read through the list. I'm like, okay, da-da-da-da-da. And then I'll do something small because, the thought of doing a big task is just, my brain's too full already because I'm trying to just sort of manage. You're nodding vigorously. So this is obviously something you've experienced as well, and so you'll sort of, your brain is so full of sort of thinking, okay, what do I have to think about today? And all that other stuff that we've just talked about. So that the sort of, stressful things that are going on in life. And so a big task just feels like too much. And so you knock off a small thing or whatever. And then I'll come back to that to-do list and go, okay, what do I have to do? What do I have to do? And sort of, I spend actually more time planning my day and looking at my to-do list than I do doing stuff. Funnily enough, that we're talking about it today, yesterday was exactly one of those days. And so you get to the end of the day and I was a master of my inbox. I had inbox zero pretty much all day because every time an email came in, I dealt with it. But I got almost nothing of substance done. And as a result, I've got a huge amount to do today. So that was a long way of saying I can certainly relate to the contents of this article. You were nodding, Alex, so you sort of experienced the same.
Yeah, I keep my to-do list either on my desk or behind me because that is, for me, a huge source of lost productivity as a task finishes and I go, whew, and then my brain is like that little wind-up toy with the symbols. It's going and nothing's happening. So if I can turn around and look at the to-do list, then I know what I need to do next. And I set everything out so it's all time-bound. Like I have specific times by which I need to do things, which is great because it means I can kind of, on like a macro level for the whole day, be autonomous and use more of my mental energy to just push yourself into that next task. Because once you're doing it, it's relatively fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
If there's a huge thing that you need to do, it's just that, sometimes I have to be like, okay, just open this and do this. And then once you're in it, it's fine, but you have to like coax yourself into doing it.
Totally. No, that's absolutely true. But I also think it's really important. So that, this article kind of points out the importance of, a few ideas that can sort of help to alleviate this kind of stuff. But I think, one of those things is just taking breaks. You finish a task and then you spend that moment looking at a to-do list, and what you're saying is, if you kind of just have a very clear list of what is next and you basically don't think, you just start doing, then that's a good way to be productive, which is certainly true. But I think also just giving yourself the mental bandwidth to just say, okay, cool, let's just take 5 minutes to just go and contemplate my navel, and just like allow that bit of space, so that you're not just then immediately filling up that last tiny block in your brain that has the sort of space to think about it, and just give yourself that little bit of rest. I hope that makes sense, because it's hard to talk about. It's very sort of hard to articulate this stuff sometimes. It's kind of not very concrete, certainly for me, because I'm not a therapist or a psychologist. But
I mean, it does make sense. And whilst I don't do that in between tasks, I have in the past month or so reintroduced the lunch break, which is something I didn't used to do.
Yep. It's so easy to remove when you're working from home.
But I used to, back when there was less on and life in general, there was just less external stressors out there, just knocking out 8 hours in a row was actually okay, because I would finish early afternoon and then I'd have nothing else to do. But now it's a little bit more, there's no need for me. I have finally discovered to run myself ragged every day. I can do 4 to 6 hours and then stop and actually go out. And on Monday, I went out for a bike ride for a couple of hours, which was brilliant. I mean, just amazing. And that's great, because you come back and yes, your day ultimately ends later, but it feels as though you've done something aside from just work.
Totally. You've existed for you, not just for the point of these tasks that exist for some reason.
Yeah, and also, whilst those 2 hours might still be there, if I take those 2 hours at the end of 8 hours, I'm not going out for a bike ride. I'm just sitting there dazed and confused.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right. And yeah, making time in the middle of the day, I think, is really, really important. Otherwise, that physical energy as well as the mental energy, it just is completely gone by the end. You just become this amorphous blob on the sofa, which is what happened to me last night, for example. So in my sort of anxious kind of going through my to-do list and not really getting anything of meaning done, I felt like I didn't have time to take a break, so I didn't go for a run. I sat in my jogging gear that I put on in the morning to make sure that I went for a run all day, and then didn't use it because I was too concerned about not having done the items that I needed to do. And so then you get to the end of the day, and of course I'm not going to go for a run at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. I'm going to give my son a bath, and then I'm going to sit on the sofa and watch crap so that my brain can recover. So I totally agree. I think giving yourself that hour in the middle of the day is just really, really important.
And also on the exercise point, it's so difficult sometimes to begin the exercise, because it's counterintuitive that once you do it, you actually get more energy back at the end. But if you feel like you need to do something beforehand, then for me at least, it tends to just take precedence, which it shouldn't do, but it does. No,
absolutely right. So yeah, look, there's tons of other stuff in this article, so definitely check it out. And it kind of talks about, how anxiety basically eats. It's sort of what we're talking about here, that it eats into your capacity, because your brain is just so full of these stresses and anxious thoughts and all this kind of stuff that it really kind of makes it hard to not only be productive, but just have space for other stuff that isn't thinking about whatever it is that you're thinking about. Yeah, so definitely worth a read. Check it out. That'll be in the show notes. But that's it for today. Do let us know how you're dealing with anxiety, if you're suffering from it at all. Maybe you're just a complete rock star and anxiety you are impervious to, in which case I'm incredibly jealous of you and want to know your secrets. So please let us know. WFH@lowerstreet.co is our email if you want to get in touch. And a reminder again, our survey can be found at wfhpodcast.com or in the show notes of this very here podcast. If you were to fill that out, it will take you less than 5 minutes and it would be massively appreciated. And you will be in for a chance to win a £50 Amazon voucher for your efforts. Thank you again very much for listening, and we will be back next week with more working from home goodies. Toodaloo.